North Africa has experienced the rise and fall of great civilizations, from kingdoms by the local North African Berber tribes to their conquests into Europe as the famous Moors. Let's dive right into its history. But since our video is centered from around the time of the birth of Jesus Christ, the ancient Nile civilizations have been omitted. Starting at around 814 BC, Carthage was established by the Phoenicians, and by the 4th century BC, it had become one of the largest metropolises in the world. During the 7th century BC, after Phoenicia fell under the rule of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, Carthage gained independence. Over time, it steadily extended its economic and political influence throughout the western Mediterranean region. In around 450 BC, the Greek historian Herodotus traveled to Egypt and documented various aspects of the culture, including the process of mummification. In 332 BC, Egypt was conquered by Alexander the Great. During his time there, he established Alexandria with the aim of spreading Greek culture throughout the region. In 323 BC, following Alexander's death, Ptolemy assumed control of Egypt, becoming its ruler and governing the nation, though not as a king. In 322 BC, as Alexander's body was being transported to Macedon for burial in the royal tombs, Ptolemy seized it, making it a sacred relic in Alexandria. During his reign between 323 BC and 283 BC, the Great Library of Alexandria was built. The library quickly acquired numerous papyrus scrolls from across Egypt through aggressive and well-financed initiatives spearheaded by the Ptolemaic kings. In 305 BC, Ptolemy emerged victorious in Egypt, claiming the titles of king and pharaoh. He adopted the name Ptolemy I, marking the beginning of the Ptolemaic dynasty. In 280 BC, the Jewish community in Alexandria commissioned the Greek translation of the Old Testament, which later became known as the Septuagint. In 264 BC, a series of wars that would be known as the Punic Wars began between the Roman Republic and ancient Carthage. At the start of the war, Carthage stood as the dominant power in the western Mediterranean, commanding a vast maritime empire. In contrast, Rome, which was rapidly expanding in Italy, possessed a strong army but lacked naval strength. In 260 BC, the close to 500,000 scrolls in the Library of Alexandria are listed in a catalogue, which itself runs to 120 scrolls. In 241 BC, a decisive Roman naval victory at Trapani, which was situated off the northwest coast of Sicily, effectively seals the blockade against the Carthaginians, bringing an end to the First Punic War. Between 221 and 202 BC, Hannibal becomes the general who commanded the forces of Carthage. In 218 BC, Hannibal crosses the Alps with his North African war elephants to launch an invasion of mainland Italy, marking the start of the Second Punic War. In 202 BC, Hannibal suffers his first significant defeat by the Roman army during a battle at Zama in North Africa. In 196 BC, the Rosetta Stone, which was a black basalt slab, is inscribed with texts in the three scripts of hieroglyphic Egyptian, Demotic Egyptian, and Greek. This monumental artifact would serve as the crucial key for deciphering Egyptian texts almost 2 millennia later. In 149 BC, Rome initiates conflict with Carthage, sparking the beginning of the Third Punic War. In 146 BC, the Romans besieged and sacked the city of Carthage, demolishing it entirely. This event marked the end of the Third Punic War, which also proved to be the final conflict of the Punic Wars. The Carthaginian territories were subsequently annexed as the Roman province known as Africa. This province soon emerged as one of the wealthiest provinces in the western domain of the Roman Empire, second only to Italy. In 118 BC, following the demise of King Micipsa of Numidia, his two sons Hiempsal and Adherbal, along with his illegitimate nephew Jugurtha, ascended to the throne jointly. Initially agreeing to divide their inheritance into 3 separate kingdoms, Jugurtha ultimately betrayed his cousins by eliminating Hiempsal and attempting to seize full control. Due to Numidia's long-standing friendship to Rome since the Punic Wars, Rome found itself obligated to intervene. They went ahead to split Numidia into 2 regions, allocating each part to one of the remaining heirs around 116 BC. In 113 BC, Jugurtha once more initiated war against his cousin Adherbal, which forced him to retreat to his capital, Cirta. Afterwards, conflict erupted between Numidia and the Roman Republic. With the assistance of the king of neighboring Mauritania, Jugurtha was captured and executed by the Romans in 104 BC, marking the end of the war. Following Jugurtha's demise, the westernmost region of Numidia was added to the lands of the king of Mauritania, Bocchus I, while the remainder of the kingdom remained under the rule of native princes. By 88 BC, the kingdom had been divided into a larger eastern territory and a smaller western kingdom. In 51 BC, Cleopatra followed the Ptolemaic tradition by marrying her brother, Ptolemy XIII, thereby becoming a co-ruler of Egypt at the age of 18. Between 50 BC to 476 AD, slavery played a significant role in the Roman Empire. During this time, Roman Italy hosted over 2 million slaves from Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. In 48 BC, Julius Caesar set fire to the Library of Alexandria, or at least to a portion of its collection during his civil war. The extent of the damage remains unclear, as it appears that the library either survived the incident or was promptly reconstructed. In 30 BC, Roman Emperor Octavian seized control of Egypt, leading to Cleopatra's suicide. Octavian subsequently annexed Egypt into the Roman Empire, marking the first time the North African coast was united under a single ruler. With the addition of Egypt, the entirety of the Mediterranean region came under Roman dominion. In 23 BC, the Romans launched an invasion of Kush, only to be foiled by the Nubian queen, Amanirenas. By 100 AD, lifelike portraits were created in hot wax and preserved in coffins at Fayum. They offer vivid representations of Egypt's inhabitants during this Roman period. In 258 AD, Cyprian, the bishop of Carthage, joined the many Christians martyred for their refusal to make offerings to the Roman gods. By the 260s, the Library of Alexandria had significantly declined during this Roman era due to insufficient funding and support. If it remained in existence, it likely faced destruction a decade later during the Palmyrene invasion. In 303, Emperor Diocletian launched a prolonged persecution campaign against Christians in the Roman Empire. Then, in 320, Pachomius founded the first community of Christian monks in Egypt, establishing it at Dandara on the Nile. In 367, the Bishop of Alexandria distributed a document formally outlining the contents of the New Testament. In 380, the Codex Sinaiticus, which is likely the earliest surviving manuscript of the complete New Testament, was transcribed, possibly in Egypt. By 429, the Vandals, who were Germanic in origin, had invaded northwest Africa from Spain and had conquered the region by 439. Egypt, however, remained untouched by the Vandals due to the vast desert acting as a natural barrier and the strong defenses of the Eastern Roman Empire. In 533, Rome reclaimed Carthage from the Vandals and restored its authority over the province the following year. Towards the end of the century, the Vandal state experienced a decline, relinquishing control of much of the inland territories to the Maori and other Berber tribes in the area. In 642, Egypt fell to the Arab conquest and underwent conversion to Islam. During the same year, the Arab invasion of Northwest Africa began, as the now governor of Egypt launches an invasion into Cyrenaica, reaching as far as Tripoli by 645. However, further expansion into North Africa is delayed for 20 years due to a civil war, resulting in the overthrow of the Rashidun Caliphate and the establishment of the Umayyad Caliphate, which assumes control over the newly conquered territories. In 643, the Coptic Christians of Egypt become increasingly isolated following the Muslim conquest. In 670, what is now Tunisia faces Arab invasion in an attempt to take the region from the Byzantine, which was the Eastern Roman Empire, achieving only partial success. With their dominion extending across the entire Middle East, the Arabs designate Damascus as the capital of the Umayyad Caliphate. In around 674, Arab forces successfully penetrate into what is now eastern Algeria, assimilating the Berber Confederation governed by Kusaila into the Islamic sphere of influence. In 678, Muslim Arab armies reached the Atlantic coast of North Africa in present-day Morocco. In 698, the Muslim Umayyad army, originating from Egypt, lays siege to Carthage, defeating the Byzantines and Berbers. This victory marks the conclusion of Roman and Christian rule in Northwest Africa. In 711, Moors of Berber descent crossed the Strait of Gibraltar, initiating the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, comprising present-day Spain and Portugal. They established a state known as Al-Andalus, which lasted for nearly 800 years. Between 740 and 743, the Berber uprising against the Umayyad Arab rulers began in Tangier. The rebellion quickly spread throughout Northwest Africa, marking the first successful secession from the Arab Caliphate that was centered in Damascus. The Umayyads mobilized to thwart the rebellion, managing to retain control over the heartlands of Ifriqiya, which was Tunisia, East Algeria and West Libya, and Al-Andalus in Spain and Portugal. However, they were unable to reclaim the remainder of the Maghreb. Following their unsuccessful attempt to seize the Umayyad provincial capital of Kairouan, the Berber rebel armies dissolved, resulting in the fragmentation of the Western Maghreb into numerous small Berber statelets governed by tribal leaders. In 750, the Umayyad Caliphate was overthrown in the eastern regions, replaced by the Abbasid Caliphate, which extended its authority over Egypt and central North Africa. However, the western territories remained beyond their control under the governance of Berber tribes or other local dynasties. In 857, Al-Qarawiyyin, destined to become the world's oldest continually operating institution of higher learning, is founded in Fez, Morocco. In 870, Ahmad ibn Tulun, a Mameluke, seizes control in Egypt, establishing the Tulunid dynasty. In 969, the Fatimids establish a new capital city along the Nile, naming it Al-Qahira, meaning the conqueror, which was eventually reduced to Cairo. In 1000, the Sahara salt mines emerge as a vital commodity in the African caravan trade. In 1062, the Almoravids, who were a Berber tribesmen, established a stronghold in Marrakesh, launching conquests across Northwest Africa and penetrating into Spain. In 1147, the Almohads, who were a rival Berber tribesmen, expelled the Almoravids from Marrakesh and subsequently seized control of the entire North African coastline. In 1171, Saladin removes the Fatimid Caliph from power, restoring orthodoxy in Egypt and recognizing the authority of the Sunni Caliph in Baghdad. In 1219, Saint Francis of Assisi participates in a crusading expedition in Egypt and attempts to convert the Sultan and his followers to Christianity. In 1250, the last Sultan of Saladin's dynasty is assassinated by palace guards, marking the resurgence of Mameluke rule in Egypt. In 1269, the Marinids, who were a Berber tribe, seize Marrakesh, marking the conclusion of Almohad rule in Morocco. In 1324, Mansa Musa, who was the wealthy sultan of the gold-rich West African state of Mali, exhibits extravagant painting during his visit to Cairo en route to Mecca, leading to a devaluation of Egyptian gold. In 1325, Ibn Battuta departs from his homeland in Morocco to go on a pilgrimage to Mecca and continues on a journey that spans close to 30 years to Asia, East Africa, West Africa, and the Iberian Peninsula in Europe. In 1492, under Castilian King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, the decisive Battle of the Reconquista is launched, aimed at reclaiming the Iberian Peninsula from Moorish control. Their victory results in the defeat and conquest of the Moors. In 1517, Ottoman Sultan Selim I captures Cairo, putting an end to Mameluke rule. In 1574, the Ottoman Empire solidifies its authority over the North African coastline. In 1798, Napoleon, accompanied by esteemed scientists, leads an expedition to Egypt, initiating an invasion. In 1799, Napoleon's soldiers discover the Rosetta Stone near the village of Rashid in Egypt. In 1822, French Egyptologist Jean-François Champollion successfully deciphers Egyptian hieroglyphs using the Rosetta Stone. In 1830, a French military campaign begins in Algeria, initiating the process of incorporating the region into the French Empire. In 1840, Muhammad Ali, formerly acting as the viceroy of the Turkish Sultan, establishes his own ruling dynasty on the throne of Egypt. In 1869, the Suez Canal is opened, with Britain and France exercising control over the waterway. During this era, North Africa comes under the rule of France, the United Kingdom, Spain, and Italy, which marked the beginning of the European colonial rule, which ended the African empires. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon in our next video.